Whew. Hi, I'm back. I'm going to be posting a lot just because I've been reading a book every single day this year. It's pretty ridiculous. Most of what I've been reading are small books, other than what I did Bleak House, for the most part. There have been a few books that have been between 300 and 400 pages, but most of them are not. So a lot of the ones that I'm going to talk about today are middle grade books because those are really fun and I like to read those in between reading some heavy duty things. Most of the books today I might be a little disappointed in, but some of them I loved. So here we go. The Gypsy Goodbye. This is an Enola Holmes book. I think it's the 6th book. I loved this one. I have thought that a lot of them are kind of like, okay, they're not that great, but this one was really fun. And it is a little different than the other ones. So while Enola Holmes is trying to solve different mysteries, she is taking on cases just like her big brother, Sherlock Holmes. She is now on her own, trying her best to keep low because her 2 older brothers, they want to throw her into some sort of girls' school and she does not want that to happen. But she does come in contact with Mycroft and Sherlock and they are so fun. And I really like how they actually listened to her for once and they treated her with respect. So part of this book is the search for her mother. If you don't know this story, Enola, there are movie versions, but they're not very much like the books, to be honest with you, but they're really good. I really like the movies. So Enola, she is kind of abandoned by her mother here and she is left to roam the city and it's a dangerous place. You think about the Victorian times and there she goes, trying her best to just put things together and survive. There is a gypsy. Now, it is not polite to call Roma people gypsies today. Probably never was, but that is what this book is about. And there are a lot of misconceptions about that. So anyway, she does come in contact with some gypsies in this book, but I can't really go into the details because it gives too much away. This was both heartwarming and sad. And then I wanted to read this really short, I guess it's a novella, but it's like 30 pages or something like that. It was really tiny. This is called Enola Holmes and the Boy in Buttons. So this is just a nice in-between story. I have not read the 7th book yet, but this I wanted to read before getting into the 7th book. So at the end of the 6th book, there are some really nice things that take place. So this is kind of like the start of a new chapter in the books. It kind of sets up the story for the next part of her life. So I do look forward to how the next books will be. And I know that as I am trying to read all of the books this year, there is even the 10th book coming out. It might be next month. So maybe I should get on this and read 7 through 9 to where the books are done for now. So I'm not going to even say what this is about. This is definitely about a boy in buttons. She is looking for this one boy and that's pretty much what the story is about. And a series that I did complete. This one, it's funny, this is going to be the only book that I put on my 2026 book that is also my winter to read list, which I completely forgot. That's how much I wanted to read this book, that I put it on 2 lists. It's the only one that I will do that for this year. Before We Forget Kindness is part of the Before the Coffee Gets Cold series, and I loved the first 2 books, and then the last ones were kind of average, and this one is the last book, which was my least favorite. I was really let down by this. I feel like this was written to close everything up. They brought back some characters that were in some of the earlier books, which was nice, but they're like kind of alongside to help people that are going to go either back in time or jump into the future to meet someone that meant something to them. I was not as into some of these stories. There was maybe one that was very fun. So yeah, this is basically characters want to go see someone that meant something to them. They're either deceased or they're not in contact with them currently. A little sad. This one didn't move me as much. And I was like, no, don't do this to me. Yeah, that's that. This is A Kind Life. I'm holding this because it says which library it's from. I had a hold on this, so it came from another library, not my library, but still. This is a book about a vegan woman. It was her journey, how she grew up in Germany with her parents that raised animals. They did slaughter animals. So she talks about how she was raised in that environment, understanding that every life has value. They weren't slaughtered like a lot of animals are slaughtered today to eat. Now, I am a pescatarian. I do mainly have a vegetarian meal. I don't eat fish constantly. It's every once in a while. So I'm mainly a vegetarian, but I am not one that wants to be a vegan, but I respect vegans. This book is about living a kind life by respecting animals. And there is some stuff about environment environmental scientist stuff. She does that for a living, and so does her brother. They work with doing things to help the environment. But what doesn't make sense is this buy less and slow down has nothing to do with the book. There's like nothing in this book about that. And that's what I wanted, is to have everything to talk about slowing down. I thought maybe it would be a little bit about minimalism, and it wasn't. It was mainly about her vegan life. And there are some things in here that do indicate some statistics. They might be a little outdated now. A lot of this book just talks about how seeing the movie Cowspiracy changed her perspective on a lot of things, which I've seen that movie. I've seen lots of movies and documentaries about that stuff. But the book wasn't that great. I did like learning a little bit about German life, because I don't really know how people in Germany live so much. So that was interesting. But she does talk about worldwide stuff. Millie Molly Mandy's Winter. I have read several Millie Molly Mandy books now, and I've talked about them here. This is extremely short. I feel like this was the shortest one. This was my least favorite of all the books I've read so far on it, but you know, there were some cute stories. She made a tea cozy in this, and that was really cute. I love that she is a creative little girl and that she wants to help people. So that's what you see. There's one part where she runs the store on her own for an hour to help someone out. She was like talking about things she wanted to do when she grew up. And so she got a little taste of what it's like to be an adult for an hour. And she was really hardworking. And so this is what I love about these books, is that they encourage little girls and boys to not just sit around. The Lantern of Lost Memories. I just finished this book today. It was unique. It was good, but I don't really think that the way it ended should have ended the way it did. It just was kind of like, okay, I don't know. So this was a very interesting concept, and I love reading these Japanese books because so many of them have tales like this, just like Before the Coffee Gets Cold. This is supposed to be where when you die and you see your life flash before your eyes, it's really this lantern where you have to choose one picture per year of your life that goes on this lantern. So there's someone that greets you, and then you have to work on picking out your pictures. And sometimes you're allowed to go in to recapture one of those memories. So you get to kind of learn about the character, about a memory of theirs and what's important to them. There are stories about 3 people in here, plus the person that's helping guide them. There's a teacher. It was very sweet hearing her story. Then there's this man who, you know, there are people that they don't die naturally. So there is a natural death. There is one that's not natural. And then there's one where it's a unique tale that I don't want to give away. That one was very cool. It was the shortest one though. But yeah, so we got some insight into their lives, and I always love learning about people, even fictional people. So it was pretty fascinating. But again, like parts of this book were a little slow, or it didn't drive me to go like, wow, that was amazing. And I would love to have that happen, but I thought the concept was very unique. Here's another middle grade book. The Incorrigible Children of Ashton Place. This one is the first book, called The Mysterious Howling. I needed a fun story because the next 2 that I'm going to talk about were really sad, but this was very fun. It is about this governess. She gets hired to help train these 3 children. There's only 2 in this picture. I'm trying to see, here's the third. I forgot he's in the tree. These 3 children who are found on the grounds of this Ashton place. And there's a man named Frederick and his wife. They have this estate, and the man is like, oh, I found these 3 children. They are acting like wolves. I feel like they were raised by wolves and they need someone to guide them. So he hires the governess to guide them, and she tries to be patient with them. She is such a good, patient person, and she loves animals. So she's kind of like, okay, let me think about how I would treat an animal in this way. And then but they're children, so I have to treat them as children. She is really good with them, but the woman of the house, she's very lonely, and she does not like these children, but she does try, but she doesn't understand why her husband wants them. But it was very fun, and I do have the next 2 books on my list for the year. So this was in my winter list, and the other 2 are for the rest of the year. So I will try to read all of them maybe this year, because they were really fun, and they were a good way to break up my day. For content, I mean, there are sometimes these kids are not treated well, and they're called different names that are not very nice. There are adults that drink in this story. I don't remember if any get drunk. They're kind of treated like wild animals at the very start of this story, so that was kind of sad. But otherwise, this is really great, and I enjoyed it a lot. All right, I'm going to talk about Mrs. Mike. This was very fun in the beginning. You know what this reminds me of? The Canadian West series. The first 2 books I have read so far, and I will be reading more really soon. But there is a portion in the second book for the Canadian West series that is so much like this. Now, this book came out long ago. This was written in the 40s. It's supposed to take place in the early 1900s because there is a a part of this book where they talk about the Spanish flu in 1918. This was very fascinating to me. It's about a young woman. Her name is Kathy, or Kate, some call her. And she is from Boston. She goes to Alberta, to Calgary, to live with her uncle for a bit. She gets sick pretty easily, and this is supposed to help her. And she meets this man who's a Mountie, and she really finds his eyes to be so beautiful. And she's just entranced by him. And he's a bit of a manly man. He's got a Scottish brogue, and he's just fascinating to her. And he is a bit older, not too much older, but he is a little bit older. She's only 16. So, they fall in love. So then they go further into the wilderness. It's really cold a lot of the time. There are a lot of native people that live there, and she is learning how to make friends with them, as well as just a couple people that are white. She does call them savages at one point, which was disappointing, but she makes friends with them. So over time, she forms bonds and she really likes them. So I do like how it turns out. But there is so much sadness throughout this book. There's a lot of loss of children in this. Loss of babies, loss of children, and women that get pregnant and don't want their babies. I'd say, even though this is not a Christian book, there are some verses that are mentioned and church and God brought up. It was very nice, but there are a couple D words in this, and then there is the Lord's name in vain attached to the D word. So that I think I saw 3 times, which really upset me. But she does yell at Mike, who is the Mountie, for using that language. Teaches a lot about what life would be like living somewhere in the wilderness as a young couple, trying to handle their marriage and new things that come around, and all the grief and all the people that are around them, and how they're not so close to the city, so they don't have access to things as they would love to have access to. This was such a great winter book, by the way. It wasn't an amazing book because it was just too much sadness, but the way it's written was really well done. And the last book that I'll talk about today is In Pursuit of Love. This was chosen by my husband from the TBR jar. So In Pursuit of Love, this is Rebecca Bender. She's a woman who's an advocate for those who are survivors of human trafficking. She is well known, but she herself was trafficked in Las Vegas. So she tells about her story of what got her there, what her life was like being trafficked. And what's so great is that she was a sex trafficking victim, but there is no talk about any sexual content in this book at all. She'll talk about meeting men. She'll talk about leaving these men, and she'll talk about how she was treated, mainly the physical violence that she received rather than the sexual violence. So there is a lot of abuse in this. There's talk about when she was addicted to different types of drugs and alcohol. She found Jesus. Even when she at one point left being trafficked, she went to this rehab to try to help her out. And they had a lot of rules and such, and they did help her. She came to Jesus. She loved it. She enjoyed it, but she wasn't making money. So she ends up going back into it. So she talks all about what that was like for her and how it's not so easy for you to leave your trafficker, as much as people say, why didn't you leave? And so she talks about why she couldn't leave and how there was such a huge hold on her life through what she went through, and the manipulation and the head games and these lies that are told to her. Even though she knew that Jesus loved her, it was so hard for her to get out of that. She did eventually get out. So it talks about what she does now. So I've read so many of these accounts. This was not my favorite of the accounts I've read. While I appreciate that she told about her life, I feel like she could have skipped, I don't know, she jumped from different timelines, so I didn't understand what was going on. I wanted her to say the bulk of what was happening, but she definitely made you understand why she was so attached to her traffickers. This takes over the course of several years. A lot of it is heartbreaking. A lot of it is hard. If you're not used to reading about human trafficking, this might be tough for you. But again, there is no sexual content in this. It is clean. There's no language. She does mention, like, if she says she's being called something, like she'll say the first letter and then a dash, like one single dash, so she's being sworn at, but she only does that a couple times. She doesn't actually use the language. But yeah, this is a Christian book with a Christian woman telling her story of how she was able to find Christ and help other people that are going through similar situations. This is Dayne. Say hi. Can you say hello? You like this jar. I don't want you to play with the jar though. Can you pick something out for me from it?
Yes.
Yes? Okay. So this is Dayne, everyone. He's 2.5. And so yeah, I really barely have any physical books at all right now. I don't keep books, so in case you're like, how come the jar is so little? These are my Nook books and my physical books that I have right now. Can you take one out? Just one. Can you give it to Mama? Let's see what it says. It says, and then there were none, which we just got. And then there were none.
Okay. Let's sit down.
No more.
No one.
No more.
No one.
Here, you hold this and then we'll show them the book. So I have a video coming out. It's a vlog about my husband's birthday, and he got this book for his birthday, but he said I could read it too because I've never read it and I've always wanted to. And I read a lot of Agatha Christie. So, and then there were none will be my next physical book that I read, okay? All right. You want to show your school bus? This is Book Bus. It's a car, but it's also a book, guys. Get them into books now. All right, so say goodbye. Say bye-bye.